Welcome back to the channel, guys. In today's episode, we're going to breathe new life into this old turd, and we're going to show you how we did it. All right, welcome back to the channel, guys. Today's episode, as you can tell by the thumbnail, is a pretty simple one. What we have over here is what I believe to be a mid-90s, maybe early 90s Cr125 frame. And if you notice, it's missing an engine. And I got this thing for free, basically. And what we're going to do is really simple. We're going to take a Harbor Freight Predator 212 that I have laying around here. It's brand new out of the box. I have already put a cheap Amazon 40 series torque converter on it. We're going to do some magic with the CNC plasma and get these two things mated together. The reason I'm doing this project is my wife came to me not too long ago and told me that she wants to learn to ride a motorcycle. And at first I was super excited. I was like, yes, finally get my wife in on one of my biggest hobbies. The problem is she doesn't know how to ride a motorcycle. So she's going to take the MSF course in the spring, but she has never ridden anything with a clutch, and having to change gears and stuff like that. Never ridden a dirt bike. She's ridden four-wheelers and side-by-sides and things like that. So I was thinking, how can I get her going? How can I get her to learn to ride a motorcycle without having to go through the trouble of learning how to drive a manual motorcycle, at the same time? So I'm going to throw this together so that she can ride it around here on our property and learn the basics of taking off and getting her feet up and turning and stopping and things like that without having to work a clutch and without having to change gears. Now, this is eventually going to be a two-part series, because if that works out the way that I think it is going to, then later on, I'm going to swap this motor out for one of the 125cc, Lifen or, just some kind of Chinese knockoff dirt bike engine that has a clutch and has gears, and we'll get her going on that. And then hopefully she can hit the ground running, when she gets to her MSF course in the spring. She really, really wants a V-Rod, which is, that melts my heart, because as anybody who's followed this channel knows, those are my bread and butter. And she recently started going with me to the V-Rod rally that I go to every June. And V-Rods are pretty notoriously single person motorcycles, and her and I are both big people, and two of us just don't fit on one. So we've been taking my little beater daily Suzuki Boulevard C90 with us to the rallies, but we are way underpowered for those rides and stuff. And she's noticed that I kind of feel like a caged animal, having 40 horsepower on tap when everybody around me has 150 plus on tap. So she wants to get into that, and I want to support her in that. So follow along with me here, and we'll try to get these two things mated together, and maybe we can breathe new life into this old turd, and maybe it'll inspire somebody else to do something similar. There's a lot of videos. I'm not going to say a lot. There's a few videos on YouTube of people repowering dirt bikes, but they typically repower smaller frame dirt bikes. I'm not a smaller frame guy. She's not a smaller frame gal. So a full-size dirt bike is all that makes sense. But anyway, enough yapping. Let's get to it. You know, there's nothing to it but to do it. So let's do it. All right, so let's get a good look at this thing. Come up with a game plan. Try to figure out what we're going to do. This is the engine right here. This is just a stock-ish out-of-the-box Predator 212. It is a non-Hemi. I do have a Go Power Sports Stage 1 kit for it. That's really about all we're going to do in the first leg of this journey. At some point, we probably will build this motor. I would like to do a governor delete, a billet rod, a billet flywheel, a cam, valve springs, you know, just basically your full stage 2, maybe even throw a different carb and stuff on it. But we need to make this fit in there. And some preliminary measurements say that with the torque converter on it, it's not, with the torque converter on, with the exhaust, factory exhaust removed, and the fuel tank removed, it still won't fit in there as it sits right now because of the torque converter, because of the length of the torque converter. If I was just running a straight chain clutch, I probably honestly could fit it based on some measurements. It would be tight, but I think I could make it work. But we're not going to do that. I want the torque converter for, you know, obvious reasons. This is a larger bike, a larger person, and a smaller engine. So what it's looking like right now, what we're going to have to do is I'm going to cut the frame somewhere in here and then back here at the swing arm area, basically take the whole engine cradle out. I've got the old Crossfire plasma table over there. We will probably end up cutting something out of flat plate and basically sandwiching it on both sides of the neck here and going back down to somewhere, depending on what we cut off. I think I'm going to try to cut it off flush here on both sides, and if this comes down and comes over, we're probably going to end up on this round piece of the frame here. But luckily, I have the plasma table, so that'll be super easy. So if you can imagine that, we're going to have, you know, almost a double spine right here, and then I'll cut a engine plate to put in there. Now, another challenge that I've got because of the torque converter comes down at an angle out of the engine. And the problem that presents is I'm gonna have to lift the engine up to be able to get the sprocket somewhere in here to get my chain where it needs to go on the stock swing arm. So there are quite a few challenges. Also, before anybody says anything, the factory swing arm bolt is missing from this bike. I have one on order. So for now, it's just got a couple bolts shoved in it so that, you know, I have my pivot point and I have something to work off of. But that's temporary. That's just until the factory parts come in. So let me get set up here, and basically we're gonna start removing some stuff and start cutting some stuff. All right, here comes the fun part. We're, you know, taking some scientific guesses here as to where we want to cut this, but I'm going to do my best to cut this as straight as possible across here. Got the old one-hander. Let's see what we can come up with. All right, easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. Well, now that we have completely neutered this thing and, you know, voided the warranty on every tool that we own, we finally have a good place to start from here. Let me reposition this thing just a little bit better so it hold itself up. There we go. Much gooder. All right. So now I need to take some measurements here and come up with a plan for what I'm going to do on the plasma cutter. But now that I got it cut, it's pretty simple. I'm going to try to bring it straight out and then straight up. And what that does is just gives us so much more room to work with there. One potential problem I see, probably going to have to cut the back of this fender off. No big deal. You know, this thing is a pile of detritus anyway. But yeah, let's get up here on Fusion 360, whip some stuff up, get the old Plas fired up, and get to throwing some sparks and, you know, doing our thing. Okay, so this is what we got here. This turned out perfect, and it actually turned out a little bit more perfect in a way that I had not anticipated, and I couldn't have gotten luckier. So when I test fit this up here, I was trying to find a way to like hold it in place so that I could, you know, walk away and get a good look at it without actually tack welding it on. Well, this actually fits up inside of the old neck, and it fits up in there a good ways, gives me a really good place to weld to. And another thing that it does is it allows me, and I don't know if I can pick this up on camera, it allows me to kind of spread this frame rail out as it gets toward the back, like the original frame did. So these two pieces will be fairly close together up here, and then they'll kind of V off from each other as they go back. So I didn't plan that, but it worked out perfectly. So give me a few minutes, I will get the second one cut, and we can set it up in there. And actually, the way it's up in there, it'll hold weight. I can actually set the motor up in there without tacking anything together. And I got a really good fit back here to weld to. So yeah, hopefully the other side fits just as good. And we can actually set the engine up in there and see what it looks like. Guys, holy shit, did this turn out good. And this is the first attempt. I never get this lucky. So, like I said, those frame pieces were able to fit up in there. I guessed at the size of the round piece back down in here that I've got to weld to, but it lined up perfectly. The way the bottom part V's out here in the front, my front two bolt holes there and there are on the outside of that piece. And just as luck would have it, let me bring you around to the other side. Just as luck would have it, here in the back, where my back two bolts are gonna go, they sit just inside of it. So I have no bolt interference. Everything's exactly where it needs to be. The engine's in there exactly how I want it. If you notice, it kind of slopes down in the front, and that is actually on purpose, because if you think about it, when you set on the bike, it's gonna do this number. So I counted for that. So when you're setting on the bike, it's level, because you know, these are a non-pressurized oiling system, so you definitely want the oil level to be pretty damn consistent if you can. The air filter adapter clears, valve cover clears, all the throttle linkage clears. I can still get the spark plug wire off and change the plug if I want to. And up here where the gas tank mounts were, if I do a couple little angle brackets off of it, I can tie into that as well. And this thing will be bolted in 6 different places. I'm going to take and cut a flat bar to go up through here to strengthen this, weld that to that. Here in the back, across these two faces, I'm also going to do the same thing, and then I'm probably going to do a triangle-shaped plate right up underneath of here. I can only go so far forward, though, because I got to be able to access these bolt holes, which is no big deal, but wow, this thing is coming along nicely. I love technology. I love that freaking plasma cutter. That thing has been the best addition to my repertoire that I have made, you know, since getting into motorsports in my career. And really, I just, you know, I'm blown away at the uses for this thing. I'm also blown away that I can take a tape measure and just make shit fit. You know what I'm saying? So next steps, I need to cut the engine plate. I actually already have one of these mocked up that I've cut for several other engines. I mean, this is not my first rodeo with a Predator engine, but we'll get it bolted to the motor, get it set into place, get everything where I think it should be, and go ahead and tack it in, tack all of these brackets in, and just go from there. You know, that's all we can do is just keep moving on. Okay, so I said I was going to tack everything together. I ended up just going ahead and basically finish welding this thing. It worked out so damn good, I just couldn't stop. And I set up my phone and thought I was videoing the entire time, and turns out that I never hit play or hit record. So here we are, guys. So I did the two pieces, you know, like we had discussed. I cut out an engine plate, welded it in. As you can see, what I was talking about before, the front two holes hit the outside of the frame, the back two holes hit the inside of the frame, which is freaking sweet. I got everything welded back in here. I haven't gotten to clean those welds up or anything. Eventually I'm going to paint all that stuff. I went ahead and made a flat plate for this front piece here. And this turned out really good. Really good. The welds turned out good on it. I am struggling a little bit with this titanium flux core welder. I typically use my TIG welder, but for stuff like this, one, the flux core is just really good for tacking stuff together. But when you got long welds to do and you got a lot of them, and it doesn't really matter what they look like. I mean, this isn't a fucking SEMA build. You know, this thing works just fine. But I'm having some trouble with the knurled roller on this thing. It keeps, if you put enough tension on it for it to work good, even with a brand new liner in the gun, it kind of crushes the flux core wire. I'm actually starting to think it's the wire. That's just some Forney wire from Ace, and it's not the highest quality stuff. I typically run the the Miller flux core wire, and have had really good luck with that. But I burned through all that just a little bit ago, and I threw a fresh spool of my spare stuff around, the Forney stuff, and it's just mediocre at best. So now really the only things left to do is to bolt the engine back in permanently. I have to swap out the sprocket on that torque converter for that 50 series 50 chain sprocket, and then once I do that, I can bolt this thing back in for the last time. And then I need to just make the chain, figure out what I'm going to do for a gas tank. I don't know. At this moment, I'm thinking about just building a little bracket for the factory 212 tank. And then I got some controls. I got a throttle and throttle cable and stuff. But once that's done, bolt the subframe back on, do the exhaust, and this thing's ready to ride. I mean, I'm not even kidding. The brakes still work. I tested those out the other day. I don't really know how, but God damn it, they are working. I need to figure out if this rear tire holds air, and yeah, that's really about it. Some cosmetic stuff, try to make this thing look a little better, but you know, for the purpose it's serving, I think we are doing pretty damn good. So that's going to do it for today's video. The next video is going to be me doing the final assembly and hopefully the test ride. Yeah. Thank you guys for following along. Please like, share, and subscribe. Y'all know the deal. Share this with many of your friends as you can. It helps it be seen by the YouTube algorithm, and maybe, like I said, maybe it'll inspire somebody else to do a similar build. So anyway, signing off here, and you guys know the deal. Stock is never an option.